What is up, everyone? Jay here with another Fire Emblem Heroes video, and today I'm going to be discussing the upcoming Archanea Hall of Forms featuring Emblem Marth, Summerseeda, Medius, and Wind Tribe Katria. So I'm obviously biased as an Archanea fan, but this is one of, if not the best Hall of Forms we've had to date, because it has an Emblem Hero, a Harmonic, and a Mythic on it, which is pretty insane, especially Emblem Marth, because when I saw in the data mine that he would be here, I was like, there's no way, right? Because Emblem Heroes as an idea in FEH and as a concept isn't that old. Like, they're still relatively recent. I mean, they've been out for a bit and we have a decent amount of them now, but still, the fact that Emblem Marth is here is pretty insane. So he's going to provide that value as not only a solid sword infantry, but his ring, because every Emblem hero provides that ring. And you know, Marth's case, he's going to give anybody you want -1 cooldown, which can be very useful. So that's amazing. And then of course we have his wife Summer Harmonic version, so she provides the value for resonant battles. And as a unit, she's not the best Axe Cavalier anymore, but even with her outdated PRF, this is still kind of good for the effective damage against everything. So with the skills that she has access to, you can definitely make her pretty powerful. And she's waiting for a refine whenever that is. And then speaking of waiting for a refine, we have Medius as well, who's waiting for his refine and remix, which we'll see presumably at the end of this month, hopefully. So he was the former King of Dark Season, used to see him on every team, and he's waiting to hopefully become top tier again. And then last but not least, we have Wind Tribe Katria. Well, I say last but not least, but she is kind of least because she isn't the best unit compared to the other three, in my opinion, because she is, you know, a 4-star seasonal demote and she doesn't have a PRF. But even then, she is pretty good because she came out relatively recently. She has a great, you know, great offenses, and the skills that you can give her are going to make her a lot better, especially if you have her merged already or you already have her at +10. This is a good chance to update her because she's also a blue bow flyer, which isn't the most common class type. There isn't too many blue bow flyers in the game. So yeah, this video will be my overview of each unit, my in-depth thoughts and skill recommendations, because I'm definitely familiar with each of these units because I have them all at +10, as you might be able to see. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So Emblem Marth, my glorious boy, sword infantry, the very first Emblem hero, and you know, being the first, he's sadly not the best anymore. And I like to say that he walked so Legendary Era could run, because Legendary Era is pretty much better than him in almost every way. But with that being said, he's still a solid sword infantry with the right skills, and he can hit very hard and be useful still. So in the emblem pool, you know, he's obviously the worst one, but his ring isn't the worst one, I would say. And also just in sword infantry class in general, he's still pretty cool because there isn't too many sword infantries compared to like tanks that are good in the player phase, because that's what Emblem Marth excels in the best, is initiating and getting those potent hits and the Lodestar Rush. So, you know, he can definitely take hits here and there, but he's mainly a player phase unit in my opinion. So that kind of role in a sword infantry isn't the most common, so that's pretty cool. But anyways, let's go over the assist, special, and his skills that you can give him. So for his assist, Reposition Gate, I don't even have it on mine, but Reposition Gate is obviously a no-brainer because that gives him Canto. It's just straight up better than Repo, and it's also great in Arena for scoring. So Reposition Gate, easily his best assist. If you can't get that for some reason, if you get unlucky, then Dual Rally. For his special, Lodestar Rush, you pretty much don't want to unequip this because this is his best special. It's his PRF special that gives him the full damage on his potent hits. But obviously, because he has this, you can definitely go for Gust or Godlike Reflexes for fun. And then for his A slot, Attack Speed Excel, no brainer again. That is just great for almost any kind of offensive unit because it gives you that flat damage reduction. So it can help him survive in case he needs to take a hit in the player phase. Let's say he can't kill something, that can help him, or if he needs to take an enemy phase hit, Attack Speed Excel is great for that. So I personally like having that bulk to take hits, but you can also go for a Slice with Sparrow. So this is an all-in player phase skill, which is great because it gives you true damage, and it also gives you that guaranteed follow-up attack, which can work as a pseudo no follow-up attack against, or pseudo no follow-up against follow-up negation. So that can kind of work, and that transitions into his other best C slot, which I have, or A slot that I have right here, Perfect Attack Speed, which gives you the full no follow-up, and of course more attack and speed. So this is good if you don't want to run no follow-up in his C, because he comes with infantry no follow-up innately. So Perfect Attack Speed is good for that no follow-up, just to have your bases covered. But of course you can just outsource no follow-up from someone else. So it's really up to you. I personally, let's say I didn't have a +10 Emblem Marth, I would probably go for Slice with Sparrow if I had him on merge, especially just for player phase utility and just, you know, nuking things. But Attack Speed Excel, you can't go wrong with that either, and Perfect Attack Speed. So it's really up to you what you prefer. And then for his B, it's a no-brainer as well. He introduced Potent, so naturally he's also the a great user of Potent Finish. So this is going to give you plus 15 true damage when his special triggers, and that's what Marth wants to do, and also gives you healing. So this skill is so much better than the OG Potent. So this is definitely the go-to. If you can't get this, if you get unlucky, then Speed Taker is, I guess, another option, but even then it's kind of redundant because Speed Taker already gives you Null Guard, and I mean Lodestar Rush already gives you Null Guard, and then Speed Taker will also give you Null Guard, so it's gonna overlap. Though Speed Taker also gives you great talent and obviously true damage, so that's also good. So it's not like you're losing out completely from what Potent Finish gives, but Potent Finish is definitely his best B slot. So if you see this, definitely get it for Emblem Marth here. And then some other skills I wouldn't recommend. Try not to give him Lagoo's Friend or Lagoo's Loyalty, because it's not going to work with Lodestar Rush because of the low cooldown. So, I guess if you don't want to use Lodestar Rush, and if you want to use Gust or Godlike Reflexes to make him a tank for some reason, which is going to remove his uniqueness, then I guess go for that. But again, Potent Finish is definitely the best B slot you can get for him. And then for C, you have Time's Pulse Edge. This is, in my opinion, the best one, because it lets him have Lodestar Rush ready to go right off the bat, and it also lets him trigger it twice per combat, which is amazing for securing those KOs. So if you can't get that, then Brutal Tempest is another option, but Sigurd Ring also exists. So if you already have Emblem Sigurd, then you can just give him the Sigurd Ring if you're not using it on someone else. So Brutal Tempest can give you that Canto and the extra movement, but there is Sigurd Ring, like I said. So Brutal Tempest is like the second best option, I'd say. And then if you get really unlucky, well, maybe not the second best option. Actually, the second best might be Attack Speed Faith. I'm getting ahead of myself. Attack Speed Faith might be the best one because I think it's available here. Attack Speed Faith is pretty good because it gives you the Bulwark support and a little bit more of flat damage reduction and some special jumping. So that can be good. But if it's not in the Hall of Forms, then forgive me. But if it is, then Attack Speed Faith is definitely a nice option. But again, Time's Pulse Edge is his best C in my opinion. Brutal Tempest comes next. And then if you could really get unlucky, then I guess you can go for Breath of Life 4 for some reason, or Odd Speed Wave 4, because Odd Speed Wave 4 is going to give you no follow-up. So it gives you more speed and no follow-up, but it's not the best, most ideal C slot in my opinion. So those are pretty much the skill options I would recommend on my boy Emblem Marth. Alright, so next up is Marth's beloved Summer Sita featuring Summer Plumeria. So like I said earlier, Dolphin Dive Axe is waiting for a refine, so it's pretty outdated, but that being said, the effective damage it has can still come in clutch sometimes. So this weapon is really fun to use. She's really fun to use in general, so I'm hoping the refine is great. But with that being said, because we don't know what the refine is going to have, there is going to be a gamble with some of the skills. So we don't know what's the most optimal for her at the moment. So keep that in mind with these skill recommendations. But let's start with the assist. So the assist, Dual Rally Plus, that's pretty much the best thing you can give her right now, besides Reposition, obviously, but that's not a premium assist. For her special, No Quarter, another no-brainer, because that lets her pierce through damage reduction because she doesn't have that in her weapon. But because her weapon doesn't give her -1 cooldown, it might be actually pretty tough to trigger the special for No Quarter. So, and if you have DR Piercing and another skill, then it might not be as necessary. So Haze Slice is the best special and most premium special you can give her because it gives you that special jump and some flat damage reduction. So Haze Slice is there, but just keep in mind that Sita's attack stat is not the highest unless you invest into her like me. Or, I mean, I'm not saying you have to have her at +10, but if you have her on Merge, then her attack stat isn't the greatest. That's why they give your effective damage to make up for it a bit. So yeah, just keep that in mind because Haze Slice and No Quarter both scale off your attack stat. And then for her A slot, just like her husband pretty much, you have Attack Speed XL and Slice with Sparrow as the best options. I personally would probably go for Slice with Sparrow just because cavalry units in general, especially ones like Sita, are not really trying to take hits in the enemy phase. I mean, it can help you survive in initiations, but Slice with Sparrow I would say is better than Emblem Marth, in Emblem Marth's case. So Slice with Sparrow would be the skill I would go for, but Attack Speed XL, you can't go wrong with that. And Potent Assault is the best B slot, no doubt. Just like with her husband, Potent Finish, you have Potent Assault, because this is so good for the speedy units that just get that extra hit, and it also gives you that DR halving. So if you have Potent Assault, then you don't really need to use No Quarter as much, and you can just run Haze Slice. So Potent Assault, that's easily her best B slot because that extra hit. I mean, potent skills are just so good for that extra hit. Sometimes you really need that. If you can't get Potent Assault, then you can go for Momentum, which gives you special jumping depending on how far you move. We know that skill is very good. And then Flow Desperation, like I have on mine, that can be kind of good just to kill things before they can do anything. But Potent Assault I would still say is just overall better because it gives you more, and then Flow Guard 4 is another one as well. So those are pretty much the best B slots I would look out for Summer Sita. And then for a C slot, you can use Panic Smoke 4 like I have on here. But Attack Speed, Insight, Hone is definitely the most premium option because it gives you that incited status for not only you but your teammates. It gives you that attack speed buff, and you know, cavalry units in general, they move the most spaces, so getting incited status, they love that. If you can't get that, or if you prefer something else, you can go for Shadow Shift 4 to give you that utility after you Canto, because her weapon does have Canto. You can also go for Fatal Smoke 4, and then also even Alarm skill, but I would not use an alarm skill. Like, out of all the skills I mentioned, definitely don't go for alarm if you get something else. But if you really want alarm, and if you don't plan to use her P or F because her P or F already is Canto, then you can go for alarm. But that's like a last ditch option in my opinion. So those are the skills I recommend for Summer Sita. Moving on to the Shadow Dragon himself, Medius. So for his assist, Reposition Gate, obviously. For special, Dragon's Roar is a no-brainer because it scales off his high res stat and gives him flat damage reduction. For his A slot, Attack Res Scowl, they just might give that to him for his remix, but you can also use Defense Res Scowl or Diluvial Boost. Personally, I would go for Diluvial Boost because it's more rare. It's definitely the most premium skill you can get, but Scowl Effect is just great to have in a meta where there's so much special jumping, and in my opinion, they need to release more Scowl stuff. But Diluvial Boost just gives you stats and everything except for speed, and it gives you plus 5 HP and healing, so it just depends on what you want. If you really get unlucky, then Attack Res Finish 4 is there, or Fire Flood Boost 3, but the guard effect isn't as useful nowadays in my opinion, so the Diluvial Boost in my opinion is just better than Fire Flood Boost. So those are the A slots. For his B, Assured Rebirth, we're going to see what kind of remix it'll get, and hopefully it's better than the Goose Friend 4, because the Goose Friend 4 is definitely his best B slot for tanking, especially because his weapon doesn't give him -1 cooldown, so you can use the Goose Friend with Dragon's Roar or Glacies with no concern, so you can just run that. If you can't get the Goose Friend 4, then High Dragon Wall is the best next thing, because it provides anti-warp, and that can be useful, but you can also just use Barricade in the C, which we'll get to. So High Dragon Wall is there, or Dragon Scales is also a decent option. And then for C, he comes with Canto Control 3, so Firm Canto Curb is the natural you know, upgrade you can use on him to improve his Canto Control 3. But Canto Control 3 is just, it's a, you know, Firm Canto Curb is like a premium skill for sure, but it's not as necessary compared to other, you know, tier 4 skills in my opinion, because Canto Control 3 can work perfectly fine. You know, it does its job. But the best C slot you can get is Barricade, because that is going to give him utility that dragons have access to, which is the anti-warp, because High Dragon Wall, while it's there, you would rather run the Goose Friend with Barricade, so Barricade's there. And anti-warp is also useful. It's always useful in this metagame. Breath of Life 4 or even Res Wave 4 are also options if you get unlucky. But Res Wave is kind of a meme if you want to stack Scowls. I guess you can try that with Attack Res Scowl, so that's an option, but definitely aim for Barricade if you can. So those are the skill options I recommend for Medius. And last but not least, but kind of least, is Wind Tribe Katria. So she is the only demote here, and if you do invest into her, she can be great because, like I said earlier, Blue Bow Flyers aren't the most common unit type, and she does have good stats. So here we go. Assist, Dual Rally Plus. You can't use Reposition Gate on her, so that's pretty much the best, most premium thing you can use on her. Weapon, Doubler Bow or Kumo Yumi. I'm pretty sure those are in the Hall of Forms. You can't give her arcane weapons because they're not available on Hall of Forms, but Arcane Hex Bow is definitely her best bow right now. And even without inheritance, her default White Wing Bow is already pretty nice because it gives you no panic and no follow-up, which is pretty cool. Kumo Yumi is the option I gave to her, is the weapon I gave to her, because it gives her the Brave effect and also warping, which is kind of fun, even though the stats aren't that great. You know, most of the time she'll be able to kill things that are weak to arrows and frailer things, and that's usually what she's going to be attacking. So it's perfect. I like Kumo Yumi personally. Doubler Bow is also an option because it gives you bonus doubler. And then for her special, Deadeye, obviously, but Curved Shot is also there for survivability if you really want to take hits, and it is more premium than Deadeye, I suppose, so you can use that. And then for A slot, you have a couple options. You have Attack Speed Mastery. This I just recently gave to her from Tea Time Saline, and you can get it in this Hall of Forms because Mastery skills are pretty rare and they're only available on Flyers. So Flyers can only use that, and it also gives you Canto. So with the warping that you have and the Canto, it's pretty fun. And then if you get unlucky or if you want to use something else like Flared Sparrow, that's an option. for that, you know, 7 damage at the beginning of combat, and the flame terrain. Or you can use Verge of Death if you just want to use, or just want to maximize her visible stats and be immune to panic effects for your attack and speed. For her B slot, I love Desperation. I've always been a fan of Desperation, so Desperation is great for just cleaning up foes and getting those potential quad hits, so it's fun there. But Speed Taker 4 is the most premium option you can give to her because it gives you that speed-based true damage, the great talent, the null guard. If you can't get Speed Taker, then Speed Defense Far Trace 4 is another option that gives you +7 true damage and Canto, but don't use it with Mastery because you're going to be overlapping Cantos. Assassin Strike is there if you get unlucky as well. And then for C, you can give her Deadly Miasma, but just keep in mind this is not going to work with Flared Sparrow as the terrains will conflict with each other, so keep that in mind. But if you don't want to use Deadly Miasma, or you know you have Flared Sparrow already, then Speed Defense Crux is there, Fatal Smoke 4, and then Soaring Guidance or Guidance 4, as it is for many flying units. You can just have that support for your team. So those are the skills I recommend for Wind Tribe Katria, and that is my overview of the Archanea Hall of Forms. A lovely lineup, I really love it, and I hope to pick up one of them. I don't even know who I'm going to pick up. Maybe Medius, because out of all the units I have built here, he has the most outdated kit. So I mean, I would love to get all 4 of them, to be honest, but what are the chances I'll have enough torches and stuff to give every single one of them the skills I want, you know, because you're still gambling and trying to get the best skills. So we'll see how it goes, I suppose. But if you guys are going for this Hall of Forms, good luck. I gave you all the skills that I recommend. I might have missed a few. If I did, I apologize. These are just off the top of my head. But yeah, hopefully you guys have fun. I think a lot of people are going to go for Emblem Marth because he provides the most value, being that emblem hero, and you know it's just going to be a fun time with him. So yeah, like I said, good luck with your Hall of Forms run whenever the Hall of Forms comes out, and leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Please stay safe out there. Peace out.